This is You, the People. Each week, we three Canadians talk about you, the people, your politics, your political system, your final 2020 debate, and yes, your upcoming election. And with me, as always, Corey Hogan, Stephen Carter. Guys, what is going on?
Come on, Zain.
Well,
come on.
Well, I don't know what's going on.
We're recovering. We're in recovery from watching another 90 minutes of debate, and
would you call it that? Would you call it debate?
Yeah, I would.
I'll tell you
I
something.
actually don't share Carter's opinion. I think this was fine. This was a fine debate.
Oh, come on. This is a fine debate?
I think what we learned tonight, listen, Trump lying calmly is more effective than Trump shouting his lies over Biden. That's what we learned tonight. It was like he had a good night. It was actually watchable, even though it was still, not pleasant. But the bar has really been this is 2020, man. Like, we take what we can get. And this was a lot better than the first debate.
And that's a wrap on this podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Carter, I know you didn't get your words in, but I think we got all we needed from Corey. I think we're fine.
No.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Give us your trailer, because we've got a full hour to cover on this. But yes, just give it to us. Whatever.
No, I mean, is this going to be a whole podcast of Corey saying things that are going to make me nuts and
as
mental?
Possible? It's a real chance.
This, I mean, I know that people love to hear me suffer. I know that this is why they tune in, but I just don't know if I can do it tonight. I don't know if I got it.
Carter, be a pro. Be a pro. Assess it. We might loathe the man, but Trump wasn't unwatchable tonight.
Okay, I'm going to jump into that in a moment, but first, the headlines. Let's start with this, guys, and let's start with a headline about the debate. This coming to us from NPR. Trump trashes Black Lives Matters, then claims, quote, "I'm the least racist person in the room." By the way,
he was at a Klan meeting, though. So.
Well, of course, also in the room, a moderator who is a woman of color, but don't worry, she comes in second behind Donald Trump. Guys, any reaction to what I think is probably the funniest Trump line, if he was intending to be funny, which I suspect he wasn't?
I mean, how does one respond to that? He's said it so many times, and it's been just, he was racist in the debate, and then gets to say I'm the least racist person, and gets to bring back the name of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, what bothers me about it is it's not the first time. He doesn't learn any lessons. There's never any punishment. So he just keeps repeating it. Like if Biden does something stupid, he tries not to do it the next time. Now he does something new that's different and dumb, but it's different. It's new. Trump's repeating his mistakes over and over and over again. He doesn't win any people of color in that debate, in my mind. Now, I'm the white guy. What do you think, Zain? Did that win some votes? I mean,
I also identify as white, so I wouldn't know. I have no idea. I've chosen white. For today's podcast, I choose white. The best part, by the way, I have to say, before I turn it to you, Corey, of that exchange, was Trump, invoking Abraham Lincoln, and then maybe like 25 minutes later, when Biden calls him Lincoln, he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not Lincoln." It's like,
that wasn't even 25 minutes. But you know what I thought the best part of that it was a perfect example of his ease with lying and creating fictions on the spot and acting sincere. I'm air quoting here for people who can't see, but clearly not being. I mean, the thread that spun out of his mouth after that was so fascinating to me, because I think it's so telling about, just his comfort in total fiction, where he's saying, like, "I'm the least racist person in this room." And rather than just leaving it as kind of a hyperbole, he then tries to make it as though he's actually thought about this in the room. He's like, "Now, I can't see everybody in the room. It's pretty dark, but I'm still quite confident I'm the least racist person in the room," as though he was actually scanning through and processing who might be in the room and saying, "I'm the least racist person in the room." That's really interesting to me.
It's racist. He's looking for people of color to say, "Oh, well, maybe." But there's oh my God, it was so racist.
No, it's the Daniel Day-Lewis of political figures. He's like a method actor. He gets so into the role. He's like, "Oh yeah, I need to make this fell statement true. I need to scan for."
This is what I'm saying. This is what's amazing about Donald Trump. He will just almost, he's so comfortable backfilling as though the thing he said was not just made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Even when it was clearly, like, even when he would have been fine just acting as though it was made up on the spot, like it was a rhetorical flourish, you know? It's really weird. He's a weird dude.
I would never say Donald Trump is strategic, but I feel like around his lies, he's probably the only person who creates like worlds and entire story arcs and characters and backstories around why he's like. That's a very interesting observation. Let's move it on to our next headline by the Associated Press. Florida Governor DeSantis proposes college bill of rights to party in Florida. So
you gotta fight for your rights, Zane.
You gotta fight for your rights, and you gotta,
The governor, unlike every college movie in the 70s and 80s, the governor is on your side, and he is helping you party. He's gonna take down the dean with you, folks.
He's producing a Bill of Rights in Florida during COVID that would allow college students to party on the beach for spring break, for what I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's nice all the time there. The only asset that Florida has. But yeah, this is a thing. It is a real thing, and it's by the Associated Press.
Oh my God. I don't even know how to respond to that. You know, I mean, I grew up with the fight for my right to party. You know, I'm just so upset right now. I want to fight for that right. I don't want it just given to me by some dumbass governor. You know, come on.
It wouldn't mean as much.
No, you got to fight for it. You got to fight for your right, baby. Like, this is terrible. It's a loss for all college age students. Really.
Carter enjoys the chase for his rights. It makes sense. Corey, any commentary before I move it on?
I mean, what can we add to Stephen Carter reliving his childhood Beastie Boys phase? Let's just just walk on. Let's all picture what he looked like back then, and let's walk on.
Yeah.
Same amount of hair as in no.
I look exactly the same. It is unbelievable. I have not aged a day. I started off looking 50.
Let's move it on to our final headline from Axios. Trump says if Biden is elected, he will listen to the scientists. Once again, Donald Trump, amazing at using a fact about the future, as we've talked about on this show, talking about the future in a truthful form, and trying to use it as a political attack for his base, saying if this guy gets elected, science will be showing up.
Oh yeah, how dare he? How dare he listen to the science?
And you know, the Biden campaign jumped right on top of it when Trump said that too, and they ran a social media ad that effectively said, "I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message," I think, or you know, saying like, yes, I will.
And I think it's the third or fourth time they've done something like that, where they've ran that same ad of a Trump clip. I remember another time where Trump was like, if I lose this election, I don't know what I'll do. I think I'll have to leave the country. And then Biden had the same bumper at the end.
It's a rich vein to mine. It's a rich vein to mine.
Yeah.
I think you could do an entire campaign of just, you know, taking Trump quotes and putting, I'm Joe Biden and I approve this message. I mean, it could be the whole campaign. But I think that there's some things that Trump could probably do from this debate. And I hope you bring them back today, Zane, because Biden, while I do think that he heads and tails above Trump in the debate, and Corey's going to make me sad by suggesting otherwise, Biden did say some things that are going to be in ads tomorrow. So this was a very different debate for that.
Let's just do that just then. Let's move it on to the debate. To our first segment, You Are on Mute. Guys, let's talk about it. We had our final debate of the 2020 cycle. Let's start with the most basic of questions, because I feel like there might even be disagreement on this, perhaps. Corey, who won this debate?
I think it was pretty close to a draw, and for that reason, I'm inclined to give it to Trump, because look, Carter's just falling off his chair.
Oh my God!
Hey, look, the reality is the guy is losing by over 10 points, and when I start thinking it's a draw, I think, well, he's severely outperforming his actual race out there. So, look, it's not going to change things. It's not going to fundamentally reshake this race. Although I think Biden said some things that, as Stephen said, will show up in ads, and so it's probably more value going forward to the Trump campaign than the Biden campaign, because there are things that Joe Biden said there that in Texas and in Pennsylvania could damage him around the oil industry. But it's not as though he won clean, and it does sort of demand that we still have not found an answer of what to do with the fact that he's a candidate who's feeling free to lie about everything. I think I think there were probably as many or more lies in this second debate because it was actually comprehensible and it was less crosstalk and you could actually jam in more. But what he jammed in was no more truthful and it was just more comprehensible. So, look, I don't think it was a laudable performance, but I think Donald Trump did much, much better in this one than he did in the first debate. And we always talk about the expectation game, and he exceeded the very low bar that he set himself.
Carter, retort.
Well, he didn't shit all over his hands, so I guess he must have done better. You know, I mean, this people have been watching this debate tonight. Like I watch college football on New Year's Day. Tell me who the underdog is, and then I'm going to root for the underdog. And everybody wants the underdog to win, and that's what's happening with Trump. He didn't shit all over himself, so he must have done better in the debate. First of all, right now the first poll has come back from Data Progress. It's got Biden winning the debate, not by as much as he won the first debate by, but by about 10 or 12 points, which was reflecting the general race. Why is it 10 to 12 points? Because most people have already made up their minds. In fact, 30% of the total votes cast in 2016 have already been cast. Those are gone. Those are no longer able to be used. So Trump needs a knockout punch. You need to be scoring this debate as though it's the 15th round in a 15-round fight. He has to get a knockout when he's lost the first 14 rounds. The fact that he's simply still standing at the end of the round is not good enough to give him the victory. So I'm struggling with this. You can't just be, choosing the underdog or choosing the guy who's lost the first 14 rounds and say, well, if he gets out of this unscathed, he needed a knockout punch. Biden won the debate on intellect. He won the debate on points in terms of what the actual debate topics were and how he answered the questions. I mean, sure, he said he didn't get the Proud Boys right. He called them the Poor Boys. Oh, Trump's doing great. Oh my God, give me a break.
I don't mind the Poor Boys. In fact, I would have called them that from now on. It just got so much better.
No, I thought so. Listen, I don't want to get derailed because I want to argue with you, but I thought that was intentional. I thought he was waiting for Trump, the guy who claimed he knew nothing about them, to correct him and say, "You mean Proud Boys?" And so I maybe I'm just giving Biden too much credit here. But who I will not give too much credit to is you and your bad answers here. So Data Progress. Their name suggests kind of a neutral pollster organization. Is that your understanding as well? That Data Progress is
saying
one of
they're
those...
bringing up skewed results?
Hey, no, I'm saying maybe they've got a bit of a house effect. Maybe it's only a point or two, and maybe, just maybe, when Data Progress calls it only 11 points for Joe Biden's maybe not run away with this particular debate.
He didn't need to run away with it. Why is winning all of a sudden running away with it?
Let's just say that this is accurate and it reflects a no movement in the electorate point of view. Let's cede that point to you, which I'm not willing to do at this point. But let's just say that's the case. Well, then Trump still won because Trump got something out of this debate. Trump got sound bites that he can carry forward further and actually build some ads around and help him in some swing states. Joe Biden got no such thing.
I want to talk about those clips, and I'll jump to them right after this. But, Corey, there was a special element to this, at least for you. You watched this thing on delay by about 90 minutes, an hour or so. Talk to me about that effect, because I feel like as we watch debates in our 2020 climate, we're also watching on Twitter, many of us politically engaged people, to start to see if like what we're thinking is reaffirmed with the zeitgeist, if that's what other people in our feeds are also thinking, and to reaffirm those points. And I'm just introducing that there as perhaps just a notion of how the hyper-engaged watch political debates, regardless of which side they're on. But what did you find different watching this with maybe not a little more space in between it, but not watching that stream roll across you in real time? Well,
maybe a little bit different than you're thinking, because it's not that I checked the stream after, it's that I checked the stream before. And I am a Canadian. I've confessed this point on this show before. And Donald Trump is deeply unpopular in Canada. And as I was watching the Twitter feed, just glancing at it when my kids were brushing their teeth or whatnot before they went to bed, I saw people saying Biden's winning, he's killing, he's running away with this thing, he's just beating Trump senseless, and wow, he's got a lot of vigor. And there was one person on my Twitter feed, yes, I'm talking about you, Mark Cooper, who thought that Trump was doing very well. And everybody else thought that Biden was really sticking it to Donald Trump. And when I started watching the debate, I was sort of prepared for that. I was prepared for Trump to be coming out seeming sedate, which is what I'd heard. Mm-hmm. I was prepared for Donald Trump not to have the energy or clarity that Joe Biden did. I didn't find that. In fact, I found the very first exchange, the one on COVID, was some very strong material for Donald Trump and probably his best performance of the individual sections. And I started thinking like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is not what I thought I was sitting down for. So perhaps I myself set expectations a bit differently as a result. But yeah, I mean, I think people saw what they wanted to see. And this is kind of a truism of debates, and this is why I was teasing Carter, be a pro, right? Like sit back and look at what got out of this. It's you can watch this debate and think Biden won. I don't think that that's actually an outlandish notion. It's a wrong notion, but it's not outrageously wrong. It's about a neutral card, in my opinion. But it was interesting to sort of have that preconditioning and then feel something very different as I was watching it unfold.
Carter, I have to go to you on this COVID question. Why do you feel Biden didn't do better on that particular exchange? It was the longest exchange, if I recall correctly. It was the first exchange. It probably had the most viewers, top of the hour. Why did he not absolutely clean Trump's clock with that particular exchange? What do you kind of feel like his stumbling blocks were?
I think that he just wasn't ready. I don't think he was warmed up. I don't think that he was in the debate mode at that point.
And we saw that in the first debate too.
Yeah, and a lot of candidates take time to get warmed up. It's unfortunate because a lot of people may not have made it past the first question, although this was infinitely more watchable than the first debate. So I think maybe people stuck with it. By the way, CNN instant poll, Biden won. Don't worry about it. I mean, they're obviously biased. But the first question, and I think that one of the challenges with putting a candidate into a debate is that they go in cold. You need to warm them up. You need to have them in the green room, not giving rattled lines back, but actually in a moment, like listening and responding. Because too often what they're doing is they're in their own heads and they're figuring out what their line should be, and there's so much action going on up there that there's no action coming out their mouth. Like they're not ready to actually win a debate. And I think that Biden was in that mode. I thought Biden got stronger as it went along. One of the reasons I think that he's winning these instant polls is that you're asking people who watched the whole debate. I'd be interested to see how people feel about it who didn't watch the whole debate, who watched pieces of the debate, who are consuming the news tomorrow. And that's probably where Corey might get a few ticks of data that might support his position. It'll be small. It won't be significant. Like I'll have the landslide of data supporting me. But over the coming days, people who weren't able to consume the whole thing may be getting a different picture. So that's why, that's what I was frustrated by Biden by. It took him at least 20 minutes, in my mind, to be ready to punch back. And that's too bad that COVID was first, because that's his best. That should be bread and butter. He should have walked away with a clean knockout punch on that. And the fact that he didn't was frustrating for me.
Corey, talk to me a bit about Biden in this format. You were high of praise for him in the town hall format. Not the town hall debate format, which we were supposed to have, but the town hall format that he did with George Stephanopoulos of ABC, where you were giving him high marks for not just the quality of his answers, but his ability to connect with people. This goes back to the original format. We were supposed to have the town hall debate format. We didn't get to see Biden in perhaps what was his element in that sense. Give me a little bit of compare and contrast. What did you think of him between the two formats? I suspect you'd think he was not as great in this particular format, but anything else to kind of throw into that?
Yeah, I didn't think he was as great, and I think that's because he's debating Donald Trump, and that doesn't play to his strengths of human compassion, because he obviously, like many of us, feels Donald Trump is kind of a jerk, right? And he doesn't enjoy being up there. And there were moments of the debate where Joe Biden flashed kind of an anger that seemed actually directed at the moderator, and perhaps even beyond the moderator to the audience, when he was angry and he was looking towards the camera and towards the moderator. And I don't think it did him any particular favors there. And that's a Joe Biden that I don't love. He is great when he's bringing his passions in kind of an empathetic sense. but not when he's coming in an angry sense. I don't think angry Joe Biden is a great look because it just feels like, I mean, Donald Trump is better at angry, frankly. Donald Trump is better at belittling. And, well, a certain amount of dismissiveness, I think, is called for and appreciated. That's just not his format, and it's not what he does well in. The other thing is Joe Biden does find himself not necessarily, I don't know what it is, but when he is responding to Trump, and maybe it is as simple as Trump just gets under his skin and makes him mad. He didn't seem to have the mental acuity and adroitness that he had in the town hall format, where he was very easily able to bring all of these facts and statistics. He sure wasn't calling anybody the poor boys by mistake, and stand aside instead of stand by, or whatever the other one was there. He seems like he stumbles a little out of the gate whenever he's in a back and forth with Donald Trump. And it always takes him a few seconds to really get his feet under him, in a way that I didn't see in the town hall. He was obviously much more comfortable in this debate than he was in the first debate. The smile he flashed at the beginning as they talked about the rule changes was amusing, especially relative to Donald Trump looking so miserable about it. He didn't seem as nervous, but it took him a while to get going always at the start of the debate, and then almost re-revving the engine every time there was a back and forth that wasn't the 2-minute response.
Carter, prove my thesis correct. Do you feel like that with the time left on the clock, that if something lands from this debate, it's going to be the moments, not so much the tone or the cadence or some of those other, the stagecraft, all those other things that we talk about, but it's going to be the contrast in either character or policy? Do you feel like that is what the takeaway here with such little time on the clock looks like for us?
I mean, if I was I think that the Trump campaign is going to be pretty happy with the fracking answer. I think that they can.
And let's talk about some of those moments and answers for you. What were they for each candidate?
I think that the fracking piece was the big one. I think the race piece was probably the big one for Trump. So, fracking for Biden, I think they do have tape of him being against fracking. Now it's probably
and it's already out. It's already out.
Yeah, it's qualified opposition to fracking, but it's still opposition to fracking, which, so people aren't going to say, well, it was qualified. Like, they'll just get an ad in their Pennsylvania mailbox that says that Biden's against fracking. So that to me is, that's how this will play out. I don't think there was any other kind of jump out moments other than a few policy differences. And I think that those policy differences, we talked in the last one after the one of them when he was trying to talk, we were talking about him trying to walk the line of his Democratic talking points, right? He can't offend certain types of Democrats. He can't offend, he's trying to walk and find that moderate voter. He still has trouble with that. The fracking answer is still that problem. So he's not getting better at dealing with the tough issues. What he's still got going for him is the empathy and humanity that he brings to his answers. That tone, though, doesn't play in a 30-second spot. It plays in the viral videos, but I think we've all seen the viral videos now. Like, we all know that Biden's a decent human being, and Trump's not. So that might be enough. That might be enough to carry the day. I certainly think that, Pennsylvania and Texas will be what Republicans are talking about tomorrow, because if they can win Pennsylvania and they can hold Texas, then I think I saw a stat today that has 83% probability of victory. I think that that's another Trump's made up stat, though, so I'm not super confident in it.
Corey, similar question, actually. If you're strategizing for Biden, what are you clipping from today and putting out there? And if you're strategizing for Trump, same question. What are you clipping and putting out today or tomorrow?
I don't know that Trump gave you all that much to clip. It's certainly not anything that was new or dramatic. And of course, with Donald Trump, like, outrageous statements are so normal. Like, there's going to be things they're going to clip, but I don't think they're going to have any kind of durability and long-lasting effect. If you are Donald Trump, however, you've been given a few things by Joe Biden. Some were misstatements, like when he said he wanted carbon neutral by 2025. I don't think he meant 2025. I think 2035 and 2050 are the dates in Biden's plan. But you can clip that. You can make it sound like he wants to be out of oil in 5 years. And when you add that with the notion that Biden did say up there, I want, we got to get off oil. It's a polluting industry. that's true. It's going to take decades. The people who work in oil aren't bad people. We need fuel now. It fuels a way of life. But listen, we're from an oil-producing jurisdiction here. We know there's no nuance in those conversations. And if you feel your livelihood is under threat, it becomes very easy for you to be cast as the villain if you talk about a day after oil. So I think that's a real problem for Joe Biden. I mean, certainly I think a lot of Texas has already voted. I think that's one of the fascinating things here. But that makes it pretty hard for me to imagine you're going to win Texas. I'm not going to stereotype here, but like I said, I'm from an oil-producing jurisdiction. Pennsylvania might be a bit of a different story. But again, you can combine those two things and you can make it seem like a more radical plan. And I will say, in general, Joe Biden, relative to any of the other big public performances of this election so far, really kind of took a bit of a skywalk out on his left wing. You know, he was much more vocal about his environmental plan and much less likely to be talking about reining it in. And no, it's not what you say it is. It's not the Green New Deal. He was almost the other way in some statements. Yes, he said AOC didn't write it or whatever, but he was pretty emphatic about the fact that there needs to be an energy transition in a way I have not seen him on a stage of that size before.
Carter, let's talk about the moderator really quickly. This was a different debate than the first one. We know the muting was one part of it. We know Trump perhaps getting his poll results back from the first one saying, dial it down, that shit didn't work, could have been part of it. There's also a different type of moderation. What do you kind of make of the package that we saw in this debate versus the first one? Was it purely on the candidates and their strategy? Do you feel like it was a quality of the moderator that we got more of a, let's just call it civilized debate than round one? What do you think?
I think the moderator was great. I think that Kristen Welker from NBC really owned the stage tonight. She asked follow-up questions. She pushed the candidates to answer difficult questions. She was balanced and informed and able to, on the fly, push the candidates to not necessarily correct themselves, but be accountable for some of the earlier answers. So that, to me, was a total win. I thought she was excellent. However, she still was dealing with these two. These two, they still talked over her. Biden did the same. It drives me crazy. Like, if Biden just could step out of that for once in a while, Biden's stronger, some of his strongest answers were when he said no, to the question about, I can't remember which one it was, but he just answered with no instead of taking a longer opportunity to waste more time. Mm-hmm. So Kristen Welker was able to create that space. Now, again, I'm not sure it's because she was just that much better than Chris Wallace, but certainly played that she was much better than Chris Wallace, and it made the entire event, the entire debate, a ton easier to consume. Which is ironic, because it's probably not going to work in Biden's favor. It's going to work. It's probably going to work in Trump's favor. But I thought she was excellent.
Corey, what do you make of the package that we saw today as a debate? Was it the candidates? Was it the moderator? Was it the strategy that they all had going into it? What do you kind of make of what you saw today, and perhaps what you would credit to what you saw today?
I think we've got to give credit to the Commission on Presidential Debates, first and foremost. That rule change was obviously very effective. The very threat that you could mute Donald Trump seemed to have impact on the conversation that went on, even though it was only for those 2-minute exchanges. Just that, at the start of each section, it was almost a reset. Like, you can't talk while the other guy's talking for a while, and it almost forced them, I think, mentally to be like, oh, that's right, we don't want to be talking over each other. The moderator, obviously, top notch. That was great. I saw Chris Wallace say, I saw this tweet just before I came on, but he was asked what he thought, and he thought, I think I'm jealous, or something to that effect. It was like it was the debate he wanted to have. Yeah. And then the other thing, of course, is Donald Trump was much more controlled. He obviously got some pretty good coaching. Maybe he just got his ass kicked by his daughter. Maybe his, campaign manager had a real come to Jesus moment with him. I don't know the source of it, but he was much more moderated than he has been in most sittings. I mean, he was still Donald Trump, and he was still a shitheel. I mean, he was still mocking Joe Biden and almost doing a really lame Joe Biden impersonation in the middle of the debate. But he was much calmer and he was much more comprehensible. He's still a liar, but you could understand the lies. He wasn't just shouting them in a way that you couldn't decipher.
Carter, closing thoughts on the debate from a strategic lens. Maybe let's add that to the mix. You're working for either Trump or Biden campaigns. You've got your clips. Is there anything else you're trying to do to make this debate part of our public zeitgeist or consciousness over the next 11 days? Or are you moving on to GOTV? Are you moving on to endgame decisions? What are you thinking about more broadly if you're strategizing for these campaigns?
I'm going to do both. I'm going to say that if I'm Joe Biden, I'm leaving the debate behind me. This whole conversation about it's now about getting out the vote, and I think you have way more opportunity on the positive side. Just go out and remind everybody about your own humanity, your own empathy, and your own plans. And I would just say that you're winning. Go forward and talk about yourself. If I'm Donald Trump, I'm going to go scorched earth negative. And I'm going to scorch earth negative every negative comment that came out of that debate. Every time he stuttered, every time he slowed down, I'm turning it into a negative campaign. No one has any expectations that Donald Trump's going to be anything but negative. So you may as well just go with it. That's the way I think that each campaign should play this. I really do think that if Biden's talking about the debate tomorrow, he's losing. He should just be focused entirely on his positive messaging, his significant gaps in the polls, and trying to hold on to a potential victory and victory in all three levels of the two of Congress and the executive.
Corey, before I come to you, Carter, if you're Biden, are you doing any clarifying work on fracking?
No, moving past it. The good Corey, people of Pennsylvania know exactly what I was talking about.
Corey, same questions for you. How are you strategizing for the campaigns as a go forward from tonight? Are you trying to elongate it into the zeitgeist if you're either of the campaigns, or is this just a move on and let's get to our final home stretch?
Well, let's move on for Joe Biden. It is, expect to hear in the next week. I will be surprised if we don't hear more about Joe Biden being a radical who wants to get us off oil by 2025 and destroy the economy. Look at these clips. This is as close to a lifeline as Donald Trump is going to get in the next couple of days. This was his last big opportunity to have an exchange like this, and in a way he got it. Like, I don't want to oversell it. I don't want to say this whole race is different right now, and the reality is even winning Pennsylvania and Texas is not enough for Donald Trump to win this election. And that's the math, man. I mean, Donald Trump's in some trouble there, but he can broaden the point to the economy, which is something that has resonance obviously well outside of Texas and Pennsylvania. You're going to hear a lot about this in the next bit. And I'm sure Biden would rather we not talk about it. So we're going to talk about anything for too long out of the debate. We're going to have our standard Trump thing where he's going to say something crazy and there's going to be another news cycle tomorrow and whatnot. And Biden will smartly latch onto those. And Trump is going to continue to try to ride this bull of, and I mean bull in the shit variety of Biden wants to get off oil and destroy the economy and, throw in a good anarchy in democratic cities for good measure.
By the way, bull of the shit variety is the longest way I've ever heard anyone describe it. If they were going to say bull and shit together, it's very good.
It was Joe Biden way of saying it.
Yeah, very.
It didn't really make sense.
Come on,
difficult to understand.
Come on. By the way, you built the cages. I just want you to know you're the one who built the cages.
Who built the cages?
Hey, can we talk about that? Because that was a damning exchange. Joe Biden looked bad on that exchange.
You think so? Okay. I'm glad I brought this. I'm glad I threw this in there. Talk about it. Go ahead, because I thought the other side of the equation, which I thought Donald Trump looked stupid by saying you built the cages. But why do you think Biden looked bad on that, Corey?
Because he didn't have an answer. Because the Obama campaign or the Obama administration did build them. Now, if you were unaware, if you had never heard that 545 children were separated from their parents, which is just, I agree with Joe Biden. It is just disgusting. It's abhorrent. Yeah. It's criminal. It's awful. I just can't even imagine these poor children and these poor parents and everything they must be going through. But assuming that is not news to you, the fact that Joe Biden didn't seem to have an answer for the notion that he himself originated this awful chain of events that I just unpacked there, that's really problematic for him. And he didn't seem to have a particularly good answer. Trump went back to it 3 times at least because he saw that Joe Biden did not have a particularly good answer for it. And so that's going to hurt. And that's going to hurt him with his progressive base. It should hurt him with everybody. I mean, this is a bad thing that America did.
Carter, I'm going to do typical moderator format. Well, now that Corey's spoken on this, I'm giving you 8 seconds to respond, just like the moderator would at the debate. Do you want to say 35 to 2 minutes worth of content in 8 seconds? Please go ahead.
I mean, it seemed to me like it should be something that you have an answer to. He was clearly prepared for the 500 plus children that didn't get matched up with their parents. He was not prepared for who built the cages. It just strikes me that, he could have had an answer for that, and then everything turns itself around. It did hurt him, and that's too bad because that's another, like that and COVID are 2 things that Biden should have won that he didn't win.
I'm going to leave that segment there and move it on to our next segment. You are so close to the finish. Guys, we've got a bunch of stuff going on. This is kind of a potpourri segment of multiple things that have been happening right now. But I want to talk with the lens to the final arguments or the final stories that each of the camps have put together. And perhaps let's start here with the strangest and weirdest, but perhaps not all that unexpected Hail Mary from Donald Trump and his campaign, which is the Hunter Biden hard drive. So this story / lack of story, I don't even know what to call it, that Rudy Giuliani has been peddling almost singularly. By the way, if you don't know Rudy Giuliani, there's a movie coming out tomorrow in which you may want to watch it. But Rudy Giuliani peddling the fact that they've located a guy in Delaware that had copies of Hunter Biden's hard drives, which have compromising emails. We talked about the Trump campaign going scorched earth against Biden. We talked about them trying to throw Hail Marys. Carter, simple question to you. Do you see this as being both Category A and Category B, scorched earth, Hail Mary style play by the Trump campaign? And do you expect more? In this particular vein, conspiracy theory style.
Yeah, first of all, it's been proven time and again that their base does buy the conspiracy theory. The rise of the conspiracy theories makes sense. You may as well jump on that train if that's the last thing you've got. This isn't that much different than the John Podesta emails, right? They hack into the emails, they release the emails, and then all of a sudden, look, everybody look over there. There is a germ of truth in that some of these texts and some of these communications are from Hunter Biden, but there's no overt truth to the general thesis that's being peddled by America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He's telling a story to people who want a story to believe. I don't think that it moves any voters. I don't think this is Comey coming out and saying, yes, we're reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton. This is a different style of problem. I don't think it hurts Biden the same way that the earlier accusations hurt Clinton. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe we see in less than 2 weeks that this has had real impact, but I just don't think that it's the same status level as first of all, for something like this, you have to want to dislike the person. Like, that's the fundamental difference between all of these tactics. People are trying to find something for someone that they already believe is a horrible person. And I just don't think that the same number of people believe that Joe Biden's a horrible person as believed that Hillary Clinton was.
Corey, is this conspiracy theory strategy, Hail Mary, the right approach, the right strategic approach, given where Trump is in the campaign?
Yeah, I think I mentioned on this pod, it was either this or one of our other ones, that this was really foreseeable that Donald Trump would go back to his greatest hits. The idea of emails saving him and the idea that emails would have the evidence of malfeasance is obviously something that gave him a lot of success in 2016. Arguably, it gave him the entire election. So to see emails once again becoming such a prominent if there was a Home Alone 3, I'll bet you Donald Trump would have had the same line. Like, the guy loves to go back to the well.
Yeah.
And the thing in 2016 that we don't talk enough about, is the Podesta emails when they all came out. So when all of those, there was this
WikiLeaks
phishing of Podesta, and that's where all of these emails were leaked out. There were a number of emails, so that happened, and his emails were stolen. But there were a number of emails that were layered in there or suspected to be layered in that were fake. Like because there was the real email, the idea was the fake ones would seem more legitimate. And this was flagged at the time, and it's been flagged since, that this is kind of what Russian disinformation does. It's like any good lie. It starts with a whole lot of truth, and then you just layer in a couple of pieces of total fabrication. And it seems that, especially if you look at what the intelligence professionals are saying, that nothing guaranteed, but holy cow, there's a lot of things to make you very suspicious about this. There's a lot of flags on the field. And I suspect that is what we're going to find out has happened here. Somebody did get their hands on Hunter Biden's emails. Yeah. And so there is a lot of email. And somebody may have even gotten their hands on one of Hunter Biden's old laptops. That doesn't seem inconceivable to me, that the Russian intelligence service would be able to pull that off, if that is indeed who it is, right? But the thing that I suspect we're going to find out is that a number of things were layered in there and sprinkled in that are not accurate. I seriously doubt that on this foundation computer they found child pornography, which is one of the accusations right now. I seriously doubt that these emails that talked about the big man getting a 10% cut were real. That seems really, really unlikely to me. And I think even in some of the initial analysis, they found some strange capitalizations in such emails and whatnot. So it does seem like disinformation, but it's disinformation that if you are a diehard Trump supporter, you might be really inclined to believe, right? And maybe if it was the other way around and we had emails like this about Donald Trump, maybe I'd be really inclined to believe it. But we've just got to sort of check those instincts and say, is there any reason that other people might want to give fabricated emails? Yes. So maybe we shouldn't put too much credence in them.
Let's stick to this. Let's stick to this for a second. And I've got two things to add. The first one is, Corey, you're absolutely right. You did say that Donald Trump would go back to the 2016 hits. In fact, he's starting to show that in more ways than one. At the debate today, for example, he started positioning himself as the outsider, right? Saying that Biden, you had all this time. I'm just an outsider. Once again, he talked about emails. He's also been making calls to his 2016 campaign team, trying to bring them back into the fold for this final stretch. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing here, Carter, is around this conspiracy theory as you see it. Do you feel like the media has covered this the right way? And let me add some context to that, because we saw the New York Post publish this, pick it up. Giuliani was shopping this around. But then we're also seeing that there was maybe a different response, perhaps an unsurprising response by the social media platforms, not allowing the links to that New York Post story to be allowed, so to speak. So give me your overarching thoughts on how you've seen media / in this case, social media, now that they're pseudo-publishers, are at least starting to own some of that responsibility. I don't think not far enough, but how you think they've been playing this particular story, everyone knowing that Donald Trump was going to throw conspiracy-style Hail Marys in this stretch.
I think we have to look at three different types of media. So the Rupert Murdoch media is the first one. The New York Post covered this. Rupert Murdoch, this is trash. It's a trash story. It should never have been covered. But Rupert Murdoch is trash, so he covered it. And this is what they wanted. The reporters didn't want their name on the story because they didn't think it was a real story. But here we go. This is a story as old as newspapers. As long as there were newspapers, there's been partisan newspapers that have attacked other candidates. We had a little glory period for 30 or 40 years in the 1900s, but that's well behind us now. The second type of media is the traditional media, the mainstream media, the lamestream media, as Trump would say. They didn't take the bait nearly as much. They certainly covered it, but they didn't cover it the same way that we would have seen the Podesta emails be covered or the Comey investigation of Clinton. They were more muted. They held their tongues a little bit, and they pointed out they held their tongues more than a little bit, I should say. They held their tongues substantially. And when they did cover the story, they covered the bogus elements of the story in the lead instead of in the follow-up. So that to me is significant. And the third is the social media. There has to be a reckoning for social media at some point. unabridged speech, freedom of speech is interesting when people are telling the truth. And in the marketplace of ideas, the truth is supposed to rise to the top. It does not, especially in social media where the algorithm doesn't let it. This isn't the town square where you've got two speakers on each corner, or on different corners trying to compete for an audience. This is an algorithm that it can be torqued, and it can, even a negative comment pushes the content higher in the algorithm. So this is they're toning down of it, or kind of like de-emphasizing it. I think just really put fire to, put the flame to this, to really start. Now we've got a real problem where people are realizing that the social media companies have a lot of influence on this, and the conservatives are taking the wrong message away from it. They're going to come after the social media guys, and there's negative consequences to that. Already when the conservatives have come after the social media companies have responded by taking the brakes off, by allowing more disinformation, by allowing conservative lies the same view as unabashed truth. I don't know. We can have that conversation later.
Corey, your analysis of this story relating to media and social media.
This is where it is currently living, and it's also what's making the conservatives livid. To Stephen's point, people are sharing this around. I actually have to confess, I had vaguely seen this story on Twitter for a day or two before I ever saw it in mainstream media. It was kind of a whisper campaign almost, because I don't read the New York Post, and there was social media talking about it, but I didn't even see the initial, hey, check out this Post story. I saw the meta-analysis of, hey, look at this and look at how it's not being followed. So it is alarming. I also do try to put on the other hat and say, like I said a minute ago, how would I feel if it was the other way around? If somebody had said, look at all of these Donald Trump emails, or frankly, his tax returns without a source. I seem willing to be like, yeah, they're probably true. I trust the New York Times. Maybe that's not fair of me. Maybe we've got to have a higher standard of truth across the board here, because what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. And the reality is, I think we're all a little comfortable in social media of sharing these things and getting them out there. And I'm not trying to create an equivalency here, but certainly you can see less egregious versions of that behavior on the Democratic side, and maybe that's what's given people such a feeling of permission to go much further. Maybe we've all got to rein it all back in to a much higher standard.
I want to move on from this story to another one that was interesting today, which is Senate Democrats abstaining from the vote of Amy Coney Barrett. Corey, I'm going to stick with you. Good strategy by them, or not so much?
Well, I think I said last week that I wouldn't have been wise for them to boycott the entire situation. Boycotting at this individual moment is probably a nice middle ground between just pretending it's normal and that full boycott. So I'm fairly supportive. I think it's a good way for them to try to swing hard at the end and say, no, this is not okay. We have a problem with the process foundationally. They do have to be careful, though, because they did entertain that process for so long. Now, you can say you just didn't give us enough time. There should have been more of a discussion, and that seems to be the foundation of their walkout. Like, this is crazy, but it was also deeply foreseeable. So, I think it's probably right. I don't think it's going to fundamentally change anything.
Carter, what do you make of the Democratic strategy here of not voting on or boycotting the Amy Coney Barrett's Judiciary Committee vote today?
Well, I think that you've got to do something that's symbolic, because you're not going to be able to do anything that's meaningful. So this gets people talking. You can't stop this. Mitch McConnell has decided that he's going to ram this thing through. It's going to get rammed through. I mean, Corey and I have had arguments about whether it's proper or not. Corey's made the strong point that it is proper because he has the votes. So he does have the votes, and he's going to do it. And don't worry though, because Joe's going to appoint a committee to look into it. So everything should work out.
Is there a Weasleyer response by a politician ever? Then I'm appointing a committee to look into.
You know what?
It is the really perfect action, non-action.
It really bothers me that it took them 2 weeks to get to the standard. Are you fucking kidding me? Response. 2 weeks to get to that response. I mean, I'm just absolutely pissed. But I mean, yeah, they had to do something symbolic because they couldn't do anything meaningful.
A blue ribbon panel will address this matter.
Panels and committees, man, that is where work goes to die. And it's perfect because the general public actually has no idea. They think it's masquerading any sort of work or any sort of activity. Corey, go ahead. You want to jump in on this?
It sounds like action, and it's not. It's either where it goes to die or where the preordained outcome is constructed.
Corey, I'm going back to you on this. Trump walking out of his 60 Minutes interview with Leslie Stahl, another story that's come out this week. So many stories. He was asked at this sit-down interview if he was ready for tough questions, and it complained that there were tough questions, and then he walked out of this interview. What do you think? This will have any impact or just general thoughts from what you heard of this?
Well, I think it's interesting, and I haven't gotten around to watching Donald Trump's release of this here, and I'm not sure I will before the 60 Minutes report, because I don't know. I almost want to see how it was framed by 60 Minutes before I see the long-form version of it. But clearly Donald Trump knew he screwed up afterwards. He looked miserable as he was walking, in the kind of the next scene. He lost his temper. He's under an enormous amount of pressure because he's going to go to jail with any luck. Nah, I mean, that's wishful thinking, perhaps. But the moment got the better of him, and anybody in that situation should know that is not your play, because there's no way you look strong when you lose your temper and leave a meeting. This is a rule. This is a rule that I will stake. Nobody who's stormed out of a meeting has ever won the meeting. Like that's just a reality. And Donald Trump stormed out of the meeting. And honestly, from what I hear, at least, the analysis of this is there's not a lot for Donald Trump to look at and say, I was treated poorly. It's going to look really bad for him if basically the same questions are sent to Joe Biden, or even tougher ones. I mean, then he's really sunk.
Can we just take the craft of this for a second? Can we just take the craft and talk about why he would even release it today? Again, he's chosen. So this interview is now 3 days old? Maybe it's 4 days old. He decides to bring it back and release it now. No one was talking about this today. This wasn't a thing that anybody was talking about. There's other news. You've brought up the other news, Zain. Why are we all of a sudden bringing this forward again? And so he plays it today. The only thing that happens is that a number of, innovative people who can work the internet thingy, grab him walking out and turn it into a meme. That's what happens through this, not anybody dissecting it and trying to find out if Leslie Stahl has been unfair to the president. No one gives a shit about that. And now we'll be talking about it again on Sunday. So the guy had a one-day story. He walked out of an interview. It's disappointing. He's the president, whatever, but we know he's got a temper. If we just left it alone and not mused about maybe releasing it on his own, we'd forget about it until Sunday. And then we'd watch it on Sunday and everybody go, oh my God, he walked out of the interview. And then something amazing would happen on Monday and no one would remember it again. The guy they're experts at taking a non-story and amping it up to a story. And this used to work for them. And in this election cycle, it's working against them. And that's astounding to me that we've got to this place.
And I mean, it would have been perfect for them to release all that child porn on Hunter Biden's computer on Monday. I mean, they should have just done that, but Corey, jump in.
Well, look, I think let's give a more charitable read of that. There could be some method to this particular madness. By dropping it today, knowing it's about to be big-footed by the debate, what you've done is you've robbed a lot of the energy of that Sunday conversation. It's no longer event viewing because it's not news anymore. It's been spoiled. And it's been spoiled in a way that made it unlikely that people are going to spend the time watching it. People will find themselves in a position like me where they were at work and then they had to put their kids to bed and then there was the debate and now we're talking about the debate and are we really going to go back in time now and look at this thing that happened previously? So even if it just knocks 1 million, 2 million viewers off of 60 Minutes, which is a very widely watched television show, I think it's the largest non-sports TV show or second largest in any given week. there's some logic to that. There's some ability to get some mileage out of that, and maybe it was an entirely tactical play, and maybe it was the smart move.
Carter, I'm going to you on this one. Another strategic question. The Democrats, as part of their GOTV strategy, get out the vote strategy, are using Barack Obama. He seems to be the face of the GOTV strategy. Good strategic move, bad strategic move, questionable in your mind. What is your thinking on this?
I've been struggling with Obama coming back and Pete Buttigieg, because I think that both of them are so good. You know, I really enjoy listening to both of them. I find their clips concise, intelligent, well put together. I mean, I could watch Obama taking Trump out to the woodshed every single day. I love it. It is fantastic. It's wonderful for me. But it also reflects so poorly on Biden. I'm almost wishful that we could have one of those two again, or instead of, because Biden, while I do love his empathy, and there was the video of Biden giving the young man with Down syndrome a hug,
right,
that was just pulled at all the heartstrings, and I love Biden for that. I'm struggling with, the people we need to take down the president. It isn't the guy at the top of the ticket. And where's Kamala Harris? Like, she should be the one taking down Trump. Where's the ticket on this? So while I love I love Obama, I love what he can do. He gets the news cycle. I just think that I would have preferred it coming from the ticket at this moment if I were making that strategic decision.
Corey, how about you? If you were in the position to make that strategic call, would you bring back Obama like the Dems have right now to push on your GOTV?
Yeah, because it's all about getting out the vote, and the man is inspiring. He's much more inspiring than Joe Biden, and he is targeted squarely towards their base. He's not targeted towards persuading voters. I mean, look at his performance there. It was a performance that was designed entirely to throw red meat to the blue states, and why not? So get it out there. Like, get them out there, get the votes out. That makes perfect sense to me. And, it did make me kind of miss the guy, like, as he was, he's just so much stronger at delivering those kinds of things, but he's an invigorating speaker. So, this is not the time you want to be hedging on these things. And if on November 4th you lose Pennsylvania by 10,000 votes, or let's say 1,000, you're going to feel pretty bad if you didn't try to activate the Democrats' most powerful asset, this tactical nuke that is Barack Obama, who can really bring it.
And let's move on to the final one that I have, which is earlier this week, the FBI have said that that Russia and Iran have interfered with the presidential election, that they have U.S. voter registration information, that they've actually contacted voters in one case, Iran was responsible for an email campaign that was made to look like it was from Proud Boys. So all of Trump's friends have like all come back to haunt him. Iran and Proud Boys. Next thing we'll learn, of course, that North Korea is starting a text blast campaign on behalf of some of Trump's friends. But what do you make of this? Politically motivated announcement? Up until Comey, it was very rare that you had FBI come out and say something in such close quarters to a presidential election. We saw it this week. Not much news made out of it because of our insanely crazy news cycle, but this is a story. And the question I have for the two of you is, knowing our political climate, do you feel like this was Trump putting his thumb on the scale? Do you feel like this was a politically motivated story? I'd just love to get your take on it before we move on.
Well, I think that this is the FBI trying to recreate some of the greatest hits. I mean, we're seeing them try and play out the last 2 weeks of the 2016 campaign in real time again in 2020. This is not an uncommon strategy. Oftentimes, political strategists are fighting the last election in the current election. Those tend to be the losing strategists. And I think that that's what's happening now with Trump. He is running a campaign that worked last time. But it's not getting the same attention, and the media aren't biting on it. I have said since Trump was elected, or since Trump was running, that I thought the media didn't have a real sense of how to get this to work. Now I'm watching the media and I'm thinking they're starting to figure it out. They're starting to figure out how to tap down a story that they know is manufactured, that isn't true. And this FBI thing, while it was true, what they tapped down was the idea that it was happening on behalf of Russia, or on behalf of the Democrats, right? They tapped that part down while covering the fact that there probably is misinformation coming from Iranians and Russians.
Corey, same question to you. Politically motivated part A, and part B, do you agree with Carter that this is all part of dusting off the same playbook from last time and trying to script it in 4 years later?
Well, I honestly don't know, Zain, and that's deeply problematic. It's been one of those truisms that has been said to the point that it's just trite, but the institutions in the United States have taken a real beating over the last 4 years. And we've gotten to the point where we can say, and it's not, tinfoil hat stuff or even like a, deeply aggressive, accusation to say, well, I don't know, is the FBI actually working in the interests of the American people, or are they trying to help Donald Trump get reelected? Comey was under a Democratic administration and he hurt a Democrat. Mm-hmm. That's a little different than a Republican administration hurting a Democrat. So even before you layer on the fact that Donald Trump has really taken a hammer to some of these, hallowed institutions, that's problematic, right? And this is exactly why there were previously rules where you just did not get involved and you did not try to create a sense of panic or concern with the electoral system prior to the election. So, in some ways, does it matter? I mean, in some ways, the fact that we are so unclear and there are so many people that are so unclear and that we are even talking about this and that this has been put forward by, credible institutions, if not particularly credible statements, that tells you a lot about the current state of America.
We're going to leave that segment there and move it on to our final segment, our overrated or underrated. Guys, are you ready?
I'm always ready, Zain. I'm always the only one who answers, I am in fact ready.
You are a team.
Corey's never ready.
You're a team player, Stephen Carter, and that's why I'm going to you second. Corey, Corey, the Anthony Fauci interview on 60 Minutes last week, the Donald Trump interview about to air this week. In our political cycle, the potency of the sit-down TV interview, overrated or underrated?
Well, it depends on where you rate it, of course, but I think I'm going to have to say underrated. So many big set pieces have happened in this election that are related to media outlets that have, I can't believe the resonance that 60 Minutes has in this campaign right now. I can't believe the resonance that, big network anchors have. So let's say underrated.
Carter, 2020 environment, it's no longer the 1970s, 1980s. We got social media, a bunch of other, fractured outlets that people could find their information from. So, same question I asked Corey. A network sit-down TV interview, overrated or underrated?
Overrated, and the reason why is Corey's answer earlier on the podcast, where he pointed out that the fact that pieces of this have been released on social media and it's going to cut the audience by about 1 million people. Social media is where things happen. This idea of taping an interview a week before the actual interview airs is so out of date with the media cycle that we have as to be laughable. These news happens in the moment, and 60 Minutes was in the moment about 40 years ago.
But they're not dead, and people have been saying they're dead. And I would say they're on the gurney, not in the grave.
Nicely done. Carter, I'm sticking to you on this. You've been involved in this. Corey, you have as well. GOTV campaigns within a campaign. So this is when the campaigns themselves run get out the vote efforts to try to mobilize their supporters. They use phone, text, digital, all the tactics in the world, sometimes even door to door. Those campaigns within the confines of a campaign, overrated or underrated, Carter?
Oh, they're underrated. They are the campaign. I mean, everybody, it's not assumed that everybody's going to go out and vote. I mean, right now they're talking about, I'm going to get the statistics a little bit wrong, but I'm going to be in the general ballpark. They're looking at record turnout for this presidential election at being around 60%. 60%, like not everybody votes. Getting a marginal increase in the number of people that are likely to, who could vote for your guy, getting a 1% or 2% increase in getting them out to the polls turns elections. So strong GOTV operations really turn an election. I'm fascinated by Texas. They've got 66% of the vote that was cast in 2016 is already voted. Who's getting that vote out? Are they getting the vote out equally? Is there a lead between the Democrats and the Republicans? Whoever's doing that execution best is winning that election, because all hell's breaking loose in Texas right now, and I am loving it.
Corey, same question to you. GOTV campaigns, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. They've got record turnout and one side isn't doing anything. I mean, I think that tells you everything you need to know about the current state of GOTV. And this is not the only election where we've gotten this lesson. In 2016, we got the exact same lesson, except in reverse, right? Donald Trump's campaign notoriously had almost no ground game. And yet, here we are. And I think what we're beginning to understand is that these touch points that campaigns put so much value in, this effort that they do to knock on your door and drag your ass out, it is like spending money on anything else. You know, there is only so much marginal gain you get beyond a certain point, and we bang our heads against these cliffs, trying to break them down into sand, saying, you, voter who was never going to vote, come vote with me. And then we take great credit when the person who was going to leap off the cliff anyways didn't need your command. We say, look at that guy. It's because of us. I am beginning to become quite skeptical of GOTV. And I think there's got to be a deep dive into this at a certain point in the future.
Well, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for us to discuss this next week when we're actually in a closer time period to that election. But I like the heat on this. Corey, I'm sticking with you for our final one. This week, Brazil's President Bolsonaro has endorsed Donald Trump for re-election. This is not the first time a world leader has endorsed another one. In fact, in our very own country, Barack Obama endorsed Justin Trudeau in the last federal election here in Canada. So the question quite simply is, endorsements by global leaders for leadership of your own country, overrated or underrated?
I think overrated. I think, in fact, they might be downright damaging as often as they help. I don't think that Justin Trudeau maintained his premiership and is still the Prime Minister of Canada because of Barack Obama. In fact, the backlash was pretty sharp online. There were a lot of people who were right pissed off about it because people don't like the idea of somebody coming out of the stands and onto the field. This is our election, and you are not supposed to be involved in our election. I think that's true anywhere. And I just think if anybody is putting value in a foreign leader giving an endorsement, they are wrong.
Carter, same question to you. Endorsements by global leaders in a domestic election, overrated or underrated?
Overrated. I think that Corey's right. I think if anything, they're going to create backlash. The citizens of a country want to have control over their own elections, and you need to look no further than Putin.
We will leave it there. That is You the People. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop myself. Happy 95th birthday to Angela Lansbury. 95 plus 1 week. So I know we're going to celebrate every single week past 95. Corey, did you want to add anything about the week that she lived past 95 before we get...
Maybe not her, but if we're doing birthdays, today is my wife's birthday. Love you very much, Lori, and thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe and rate.
You just really ruined my bit. I didn't even plan this bit, but just now you actually had a real birthday.
Maybe plan these out better, Zane. Maybe plan them out better.
Do a better job, Zane.
We'll leave it there. That's You the People for this week. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you next time.